I guess. Hey, when I was a kid watching TV, this was the worst thing that you could see show up on your TV screen. Remember that? Right in the middle of regularly scheduled programming, the rainbow bars would come up and everything would stop. We interrupt this programming to bring you a special announcement. And you got to remember, when I was growing up, we had 3 channels. And if it was something that was breaking news, that was on all 3 channels. You couldn't escape it. The interruption was right there. And the worst if it happened on Friday night in the middle of Dukes of Hazzard, right? You know, that was big time. DJ remembers, we didn't mess with Friday nights when we were coming up. Dukes of Hazzard, The Incredible Hulk, and then if my mom would let me stay up, I'd watch Dallas, you know? And if those things came up in the middle of it, it just stopped everything. It interrupted my plan for the night or the evening, usually with some sort of news or some sort of bulletin that was going to change the rest of my plans. There's a tornado in the greater North Woods. Head to your basement, and down to the basement we go. We break this regularly scheduled program to inform you that this is happening in the world, or this is happening in the world around you. I remember the interruption in first grade when they pulled the TVs in to show us that President Reagan had been shot. We interrupt this day to give you this news. Interruptions. Do you ever get interrupted in the middle of what you've set out to do? Dad, what? I just wanted to tell you I loved you. Oh, thanks. It is NBA playoff time right now. And I just love watching the NBA playoffs. It's like watching 7-foot ballerinas. These guys are just incredible athletes. And so I like to sit down and watch it. And I'm watching the game, and it is a great game. And right in the middle of it, the dog just paw. What? You want to go outside? Yes, I want to go outside. Can you wait till commercial? No, I can't. Interrupts me in the middle of the game, and I'm taking the dog out, and I hear my youngest son being like, "Oh, Dad, you just missed it." Of course I missed it, because it got interrupted, right? Interruptions just have this way of doing it. Do you ever have that moment where your day is just going along so smooth, and the phone in your pocket rings, and you pull it out, and you see the name, and you're like, well, there goes the rest of my day. Now, that never happens when I see any of you on my phone at all. Or how about your computer, right? Do you ever just have your computer mutiny on you in the middle of a project that you just need to get done? Interrupts the flow of your activity. I was talking with my friend Ginny this morning before service, and we were talking about interruption, and she says, feels like the last 3 years of my life has just been one great big interruption. First, my husband died, and then my daughter struggled, and then I lost my job, and then there was this global pandemic. We all know something about interruptions. Why do interruptions drive us so crazy? Well, it's because they screw up our plans, right? I mean, I want to be efficient, right? I mean, I want to get things done, and here in the midst of it come these interruptions that screw up my plan. So I thought I'd get into ministry where, everything would go according to plan, right? And so I remember as a young pastor going to my first assignment and, come out of school and I had a plan. I was going to spend all my days thinking and writing and talking to people about God and Jesus and changing the world. And I got to this first assignment and all I watched was the senior pastor have to deal with plugged toilets and parking lot issues and things that were happening in people's lives, and he just seemed to be interrupted all the time. He could never get to God's work. And so one time as this young pastor, I said, Pastor Bill, can I have an appointment with you? I don't get it. How do you do ministry with all the interruptions? And I remember it like it was just yesterday. My mentor, with his glasses pulled down to his nose, looking over the top, and he said, son, the interruptions are our ministry. My mentor in ministry had come to realize that God was in the midst of the interruption. That the interruptions were this opportunity to see God in a new way, to experience God in a way we never experienced God before, to make God's love known in a way that wasn't on our plan. I mean, if I admit, I like to say God loves me and I have a wonderful plan for my life. But the interruptions, can you see God in the midst of the interruption? And the thing that wasn't going the way you thought it would go. Ask my wife, Bridget, about the divine interruption the summer after her senior year of high school. Right? The summer after your senior year of high school, you got plans, right? I mean, this is your last time to kind of be at home with all of your friends. And she had this plan for how she was going to spend her time hanging out with her friends and enjoying this last moment. In the midst of it, her parents had the audacity to schedule her for a week-long orientation at her new university in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They were going to ruin her summer. They sent her away to a week at this camp in the middle of that, but guess who her counselor was? God had a plan for her life. But all kidding aside, that interruption, well, it changed the direction of both of our lives. Newly married, we agreed to come to Detroit for a 1-year urban volunteer program, then move back to western Wisconsin and get back to life as it was regularly scheduled. We are in our 25th year of our 1-year volunteer program in the Detroit area. God interrupted our plan. Our text this morning is a story of a great interruption. Did you catch it? It's the story of 2 daughters. It's a story of 2 healings, but at the end of the day, it is one message, and that one message is look for God in the midst of the interruption. Did you catch how the story started? Jesus was out doing Jesus' business, and Jairus, it said he was a leader of the synagogue. That's a big deal to us pastor types. That means he's on the board, right? He's on the board of directors. He's on the Compass team. Jairus is a synagogue leader, and he knew how to come in and talk to his rabbi. He made an appointment, right? He got on his day timer. He came in and he presented himself the way religious people present themselves. He came in and said he bowed down. It showed respect and honor. And he said, Jesus, my daughter could use some pastoral care, some pastoral attention. Would you mind being able to come and do that? Jesus, would you be about the business of the church? taking care of the church folks and the church people, and Jesus being a good rabbi said, of course, that's what I went to seminary for, was to take care of the people. Did you notice what happened when Jesus was in the midst of doing ministry that day? He's on his way to do the thing that the church has asked him to do, and on the way to it, he got interrupted. The story said that on the way to the miracle, on the way to the divine, on the way to his appointment, there was an interruption. It said there was a woman. The only thing we know about her at that moment is that it says that she had been bleeding for 12 years. It says that woman, in the midst of Jesus needing to be somewhere, she saw that healing was passing by. She saw that transformation was passing by. She saw that hope was passing by, and she didn't want to let it pass her by. So different than Jairus, who presented himself in such a formal manner, she just reached out and grabbed the healing when she had a chance to get it. And everything stopped. And the disciples were like, Jesus, we got places to go. We got places to be. This wasn't on the schedule. This wasn't a part of the appointment. Pastor, you got church work to do. Get out of these streets. Your priority is Jairus' daughter. But Jesus stops right in the midst of all the things he needs to be doing. And he says, find me the one who needs me. But Jesus is going to interrupt, find her. But Jesus, find her. And they find her. And he stops. It's as if she was the only one there. He hears her story. And he says, daughter, your faith, it's made you well. Well, by that time, the disciples had gotten word that Jairus was ticked off. He's on the board, actually. What good is it to be on the board if you can't get the pastor to come when you need him to come? Don't bother coming. She's dead. The church is dying, Pastor, because you're spending too much time out in the streets, too much time out in the world. Why do you keep letting that interrupt us? And Jesus says, don't be afraid. Just believe that there's enough of me to go around. There's enough healing for you and for her. 2 daughters, 2 healings, 1 message. God is in the midst of the interruption. Imagine if Jesus had said, I'm too busy today. I've got another appointment. This just simply will have to wait. We'd have a great healing story, but we wouldn't have 2. When we allow the interruption to interrupt our lives, there's a possibility that another miracle that wasn't even on our radar or on our schedule might happen. And I don't know about you, but I need some more miracles in my life. And I need some more miracles in the world. So here's what you got to know about interruptions. First, they never approach in the way you want them to. Notice how the woman in the crowd approached Jesus. Not like she was supposed to. The disciples are clear about that. Who touched him? That's not how you approach Jesus. Didn't you see how Jairus did it? You make an appointment, you come in, you show proper respect. She said, I don't have the time or the energy. I don't even know how to make the approach. I just want the healing. Can I have the healing? Think about the world around us. See, I've never been involved in a church that didn't want to welcome new people. They just didn't like the way new people approached them. Yeah, we want new people here. Just can you talk to them about what they wear before they come? We want more youth in the church, but can you talk to them about what they wear before they come? No. Sometimes kids show up in church and they bring their music with them. And it can feel like an interruption. But I sure hope it feels like a miracle. You can't be turned off by the approach of the interruption. The disciples couldn't see it. Whether it's in the clothes people wear or how they speak or their pesky beliefs or unbeliefs, you gotta allow God to show up in the way God is gonna show up. And the second thing we don't like about the interruption is that it brings its pesky politics with it. Can I just be confessional here? I am tired of being interrupted by politics. I know there's a lot of amens out there, right? What a season, right? It's just pesky and it's bothering us all over the place. When Jesus enters into this moment with this woman who's been bleeding for 12 years, make no mistake, he is entering right into a political conflict of his day. There are rules upon rules upon rules about women who are going through their cycle. It didn't matter if she had been cycling for 12 straight years. There were rules, there were politics, and the disciples are saying, don't touch that. You're going to get in trouble. Wait till Jairus hears what you were doing today. But the interruption reminds us that the pesky politics of the world around us is always a cry for help. Would somebody just end my suffering? The cries for racial justice and LGBT inclusion and women's dignity and uplifting, all of those pesky politics that we wish would just stay out of the church. If the interruption can be simply seen as people saying, can I have some of the love too? And so how does Jesus do it? Did you notice? He called her daughter. Up until that point, she was only known as the woman with a problem, a woman who wouldn't go away, a woman who always was complaining. Jesus looked at her and called her daughter. And in Jesus' time, that was absolutely unprecedented. Because by calling her daughter, he meant daughter of Abraham. He meant daughter of the promise. He meant daughter of the covenant. He was saying to his disciples and the world around him, this woman in front of me is the same kind of daughter as the daughter of the church. And I can't love her if I don't love her. And there's enough of my love to go around. Friends, Jesus does not see you as a problem to be solved. Jesus does not see you as an annoyance. Jesus does not wish you and your pesky politics would go away. He sees you, John, as his divine son, and you, Richard, as his divine son, and you, Kathy, as his beloved daughter, worthy of all the healing, all the transformation, all the salvation that God has to give. We are never an interruption to the work of God. The only catch to that is neither can the nameless person who sometimes shows up in the midst of our life, in the midst of our world with too many problems to offer. This is this famous statue of Jesus on the park bench. And if you look close enough, you can see the hands have the holes in them, and so do the feet. And it's a reminder to us that if you look close enough, you can see Jesus in everybody. If you come to church here before 8 o'clock in the morning most mornings, that's exactly what you'll find on the doorsteps, both front and back. Your church has become people's home. And I'm so grateful to be a part of a church that knows that that isn't an interruption and isn't in our way. This is Karen Calhoun. Karen has a fancy job title around here called Director of Operations, but her real job title should be the Minister of Interruptions. Karen spends her whole day being interrupted. She comes in every day with a to-do list of things to do, and from the moment she gets here till the moment she leaves, she is interrupted. The other day, I was listening to her answer the door for one of our housing guests, David. David's backpack had been stolen, and for David, that was everything he owned was now gone. Karen couldn't fix it or solve it, but she stayed present to David and looked at him like he was a child of God as he just cried out in frustration. David, I think we can get you another backpack. David, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to find all the things you lost. Sure, David, we'll look at the camera and see if we see anything, but I don't think we will. But David will do that because David, you've asked, and we feel your pain, David. You are not a problem to be solved, David. You are a beloved son of God, David. Karen stays in the conversation with people day after day, week after week, month after month. Karen's day usually is going along just as fine and scheduled, and somebody calls and says, hey, my beloved has just passed. What are you doing on Friday? Can we do a funeral? And in 48 hours, she helps this church completely change gears, change its schedule, make all the arrangements in order to make sure that the services are available. There's hardly a month that doesn't go by, especially when we are in full swing, where the call doesn't come and say, I'm not a member of your church, but I heard you might do my funeral. And Karen says, you're just as much a child of God as the board chair. So sure, we'll do our best. You're a part of a church that isn't very efficient, because you've given it permission to be interrupted over and over and over again by the person of God. My prayer for you today is the prayer lifted by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the great German pastor and theologian who was a martyr during the Second World War. He says, we must be ready to allow ourselves to be interrupted by God. God will be constantly crossing our paths and canceling our plans by sending us people with claims and petitions. One of my favorite invitations to lunch is from my friend Phil Button. Phil always invites me to come and have lunch with him, and I think I'm going to get to spend time with Phil. Phil allows us to be interrupted by every single person who walks by. Hey, how's your blessing today? Hey, I like your hat and shirt. Hey, you're really doing a great job of waitressing and waiting. I'm like, Phil, I thought you wanted to see me. He invites the interruption. So, here's my prayer for you this week, friends. I hope your week gets interrupted over and over and over again. And I hope that in the midst of those interruptions that you will discover that it's actually God showing up in your life one more time.